How to retire by age 40. How much to retire? That's what we're talking about here today, guys. I hope I put together an awesome presentation for you here today on exactly how to actually accomplish this, retire early. And I'm going to try to give you my 4 best tips. So I'm imagining let's say my son was sitting next to me at this dinner table right here, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, how could I retire early if I wanted to?" And I'm trying to give him my best tips, and that's what I did for you guys here in this video here today, kind of giving you my best tips. Which, let me be honest, this is a really big subject. A lot of people, and when I say a lot of people, I mean most people would love to retire early. Let's be completely honest with ourselves. I've read studies before where between 50% and all the way as high as 85% of folks out there are dissatisfied with their job. And a lot of people would love the freedom of just being able to wake up, do whatever you want, those sorts of things. And so absolutely, I can understand why a lot of folks would love to retire early, go into retirement early and those sorts of things, because a lot of people would love to just be if they want to go to the beach, just go chill on the beach, right? Rather than go to work and those sorts of things. So I hope this video is super helpful to you. Always remember these tips for life I'm giving you in this video. You might not remember all the details I'm giving you in this video, but always remember the 4 big things for the rest of your life. I hope you can at least, because they're very, very important. All right. And this is a 10-20 year plan if you're starting out at zero. So imagine you're somebody out there that's watching this video and you're pretty much at $0 right now. This is a 10 to 20 year plan for you to pull off. You can pull it off as soon as 10 years. You can pull it off, within 20 years, definitely, very realistically, even if you're starting at 0. If you execute on these 4 things I'm going to share with you in this video, you can definitely do this even if you're starting at 0 within the next 20 years, in my opinion. If you're already rolling with this and you're already doing pretty good for yourself, you might be able to pull this off in a 5 to 10 year span. So it is definitely very possible. So I hope you guys enjoy this presentation. I'm going to give you guys a lot of value in this. If you don't mind, smash a thumbs up. Helps out the YouTube channel massively and the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate each and every one of you, as always, out there. Okay. Alrighty, let's start getting into this, guys. So first one of these 4 is you've got to have an investing plan of some kind. You have to have an investing plan. This is the first step you have to take if you want a chance to retire early or young or something like that, right? So there's many different options for you out there. It can be individual stocks. Obviously, that's what I do. I invest in individual stocks. So I say, I want my money in this stock or that stock, things like that. You can invest in just the market in general. The stock market in general usually goes up around 8% per year, roughly. Some years are down years, some years are way up years. On average, you're going to get about an 8% roughly return on your money. Something that just follows the S&P 500 index fund, something like that, right? Gold, silver, commodities, those sorts of things. Maybe that's your investing plan. Maybe real estate investing is your investing plan. Maybe cryptos are your investing plan. Whatever your investing plan is, it's totally your choice, okay? But you got to have that one thing that is your primary way of investing and your primary focus, what you really love. So for me, it's always been stocks. Now I'm getting into real estate a little bit more, but I've been in the stock market for 12 years now, and I'm just starting to dabble in a second thing. You've got to find that number one thing for you and understand your investing specialty inside and out. And the way I like to put this is if you understand your investing philosophy, your plan, your specialty really well, okay? If you truly do, you should be able to teach a friend it. You should be able to have a friend come over your house and be able to teach them in 3-6 hours what you're doing essentially and why it matters and what you're looking at for that. Okay, it doesn't mean you're going to be a super genius in the next 3 to 6 hours, but they're going to have a pretty good understanding of what you're doing and how you're going about doing it and why it's important. Okay, so you got to understand that inside and out and spend several hours per week on your specialty. This should be one of your biggest goals. If this is your plan, you're trying to retire early, you've got to treat this like it matters, right? And if it matters, then you got to spend several hours per week on this specialty and making sure you're on the top level all the time, okay? And also, the other big thing with why I think this is a first step to take if you want to retire early is because it's going to trick your mind into saving more money faster. It's going to give you a goal, okay? And there's just something powerful when you're all of a sudden investing money. all of a sudden your mind starts to change and you start like understanding a dollar better, and you start like tricking your mind to save more money, save more money, save more money. And this is absolutely huge. I would have never saved as much money and invested as much money if I didn't have an investing plan. Essentially, it tricks you into saving, and you're super incentivized as a human, just like, man, I have this big thing I'm trying to build over here. I got to put more money to it. And it's really, really powerful, okay? This is why this is the first step of these 4 that you got to take if you want to have a chance to, retire early, okay? So that's number 1. Number 2, save money, okay? This is step number 2. You got to save money, okay? This is super important, okay? Now, you're doing this so you can invest maximum amount of money, but you're also doing this so you have a safety net. Safety net is so important if you want to retire early, okay? And when I say safety net, it doesn't mean you have $100,000 safety net or something like that. Like, it's great if you do, but I just mean like a few $1,000s to cover expenses. How many people have to dig into investments just to pay for like a tire repair or something like that? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, you got a plan that maybe that refrigerator that's in your kitchen is maybe going to break, and you're going to have to go buy a new one for $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 or something like that, okay? You got to have safety net money around at all times. So if something breaks, something goes wrong in your life financially, you have the money to pay for it, okay? Super, super important. You got to save some money, all right? And the money that you save, keep it somewhere likely that's like an online savings account like Ally or somewhere like that. Most of the big banks, their savings accounts, they really don't pay you anything. And Ally's dropped their rates, substantially over the past year or two, unfortunately, as interest rates have gone down. But Ally still pays much above, or a lot of those online banks, they still pay much above like what the traditional banks like a JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and a lot of those banks end up paying, okay? So you want to keep that money in there in the save, kind of in the meantime, let's put it that way. And also, very, very simple, okay? If you want to save money, you need to have higher income, or you need to lower your expenses, all right? In my opinion, you should always have a minimum of 20% of your income going toward investing. So I have an example for you there. If you make $50,000 in a year, right, you should essentially have $10,000 minimum going toward your investment plan each and every year, okay? And if you don't have that, you either have an income problem or you have an expense problem. It's one of those two. Is it income or is it an expense? And you need to say, well, I'm just not making enough money. I just don't have enough coming through the door, okay? Or you need to say, I have a good income and I'm just spending it all. Whatever it is, you got to figure out which one it is, because it's one of those two, okay? And I have a video I put together last week, top 5 side hustle ideas for 2020. That's a video that can definitely help you out if you're looking to make some extra money on the side or something like that. Other than that, you can look for another job, you can start a business, things like that. But you got to have at least 20% of your income going toward investments each and every year, okay? Is it an income problem or is it an expense problem if you aren't pulling that off, okay? Very, very key. Save money. 3 of 4 up here is around debt. Very key, okay? Debt destroys wealth for most individuals out there. The very select few, the 1%, really know how to use debt to benefit them massively. Let's say the top 10%, okay? Really understand debt on a high level and understand how to use debt to benefit themselves in a massive way. But most people, the majority of people, the high majority of people, debt is crippling, and debt destroys their wealth, and debt is one of the reasons why they have no chance to retire early, okay? So debt is so key. This might be the most key one of all of them. They're all dang key, but this one's super, super important, because this is going to either give you a chance or not give you a chance of retiring early, okay? Number 1, stay away from credit card debt. Most credit card debt, most interest rates on credit card debt is 18% plus. A lot of them is 20% plus, okay? There's nothing wrong with using a credit card as long as you're using that credit card and then paying off that money as soon as possible. But what happens, what to most folks out there, is they start charging on their credit card. They start racking up debt. They don't pay it off right away. It starts accruing interest, and that interest starts accruing interest. And next thing you know, they're paying 20%, 25% interest rates to these credit card companies. And the snowball gets impossible to beat. And the next thing you know, oh my gosh, they're trying to just pay the interest down. They can't even do that. And the debt pile's getting bigger. It's not getting smaller. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's so disappointing to see, okay? stay away from credit card interest. It will destroy your wealth completely. It happens to so many people out there. It's sad. It really is, okay? Stay away from auto loan debt. I don't know why it says auto loan debt. It's supposed to say stay away from auto loan debt unless it's under 6% interest rate. If you get under 6% interest rate, that's interesting, okay? If let's say it's a car you really want or need and you can get it for a 5% rate, 4% rate, that's interesting, right? Because remember, if you're just in like an S&P 500 index fund, you can usually, keyword is usually, get about 8% per year, okay? So at 6%, or 5%, 4%, okay, you're doing okay. But if you're at auto loan debt or auto loan interest at like a 10% rate, 12% rate, 15% rate, 20% rate, which I've seen in firsthand right in front of me, people do auto loans for like 20% interest rates, like 22%. Like, it's ridiculous, guys. Don't do that. Stay away from that, okay? Buy a car cash, Uber around. I don't know. Do something other than like taking out that auto loan at some ridiculous interest rate, okay? Stay away from that. That's huge. Also, shop around for mortgage rates. Right now, if you're getting a mortgage on a house, flat out, you should be able to get a rate of around 4% or less. Maybe even in the 3s. Heck, maybe even in the 2s, okay? Shop around those mortgage rates. There's absolutely nothing wrong with buying a house. Actually, buying a house, if you live in a great market, it can be phenomenal. And you're probably going to make a lot of money over the next 10, 20, 30 years if you buy a house. But make sure you're getting a really fair interest rate on that, okay? A really fair one. And that should be 4% or under right now. If you're not getting that, why are you not getting that? You need to shop around a bit, okay? So debt, so dang key in this, okay? And we're going to get into number 4 now, and then we'll get into how much money, in my opinion, you need to actually retire, okay? So number 4 is own where you live, okay? Own your main residence outright before you retire. This is massive, okay? The reason this is massive is because if you have your place paid off, you live in a condo, you live in a home, whatever it is, a townhome, to not have the biggest expense for most people is crazy big, okay? Remember, most people, their biggest expense is either their rent or their mortgage. And then it goes from there, okay? Their rent or the mortgage for most folks out there is their biggest expense. And if you have wiped out that expense before you get to retirement, dude, you are looking so good. It is ridiculous, okay? You are looking so dang good because you just knocked out. Now, in terms of expenses, you don't even have to worry about the number one expense most people have, which is the roof over their head each night, okay? And if you can own that outright, it is so darn powerful. Also, if you own that outright, then you have another asset that's sitting right underneath you that you can sell if you ever need to. So if you own, let's say you own a $300,000 house outright, right? Guess what? You could go sell that next week for $300,000, or it might take longer than a week. Maybe it takes a month or 2 months or 3 months, but you can get out of that for $300,000 cash if you want it, right? Because you own it outright. That's powerful, okay? Really powerful. And how can you make that happen? Pay a little extra toward the principal each and every month. Remember, you want the majority of your money going toward your investing plan, your investing specialty, right? Could be stocks, could be the stock market in general, could be real estate, commodities, whatever your thing is, okay? But pay a little bit toward principal each and every month. If you can just pay an extra $50 to $100 a month toward the principal of that mortgage on your place you live in, it adds up to a really large number at the end of, 10 years, 20 years, something like that, okay? And it's a good probability, if you've always been paying a little extra toward that principal, good probability that that 30-year mortgage you signed up for actually ends up becoming a 20-year mortgage, or actually, it works much faster than that, okay? Own where you live, key, okay? Number 4, okay? Now let's go ahead and get into a big subject a lot of people want to talk about. How much money to retire? How much money do you need to retire? So dang key, okay? So this is from my perspective on somebody that runs numbers all the time and just, cares about money a lot, right? So how much money to retire? If you live in an expensive place like, let's say, United States, United Kingdom, Canada, places like that, okay? In my opinion, if you're going to retire young, you need a minimum of $2 million, okay? Minimum. Now, some people like to argue that, oh, no, you only need $1 million, you only need $1.5 million. Whatever, okay? You can argue all you want. My opinion, in looking at numbers, looking at inflation, looking at everything I look at, you need 2 million minimum to retire young, okay? No one wants to be the guy that goes into retirement at age 40, and next thing you know, you're having to go back to work at 47 because you realize, dang, I didn't save enough, okay? I've seen some people say, oh, you only need $500,000 to retire, $750,000, things like. I'm like, no, okay? That's taking a huge risk. If you want to retire with $500,000 and that's all you got, good luck, okay? Good luck, especially if you live in the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, most places in Europe, things like that, like, Australia. Like, good luck to you retiring on that amount of money, okay? If that's all you got to your name. It's going to be very, very difficult, even if you're fairly frugal, which, remember, a lot of people want to retire early so they can go do stuff, right? So they can go travel and do different things like that, right? All that stuff eats into money. So in my opinion, if you live in an expensive place, 2 million minimum to retire young, okay? Now, if you live in a really cheap place, which is definitely, most of the world, I would say, is fairly cheap to live in, okay? If you live in a cheap place, you need $1 million minimum. Now, keywords are minimum in this, okay? Not like this is what you need. I'm saying minimum you need this amount. And if you live in a cheap place, I would still have at least $1 million, okay? So that's how much you really need to retire, in my personal opinion. I know not everybody likes to hear that you got to save up to $1 million or $2 million or so just to even consider retiring. But in my opinion, it's just the truth. Like I said, do you want to be the guy that retires at 40 and next thing you know, you're back at working at Walmart because it wasn't enough or something like that? You got to go back into the workforce and get a job because you're like, dang, man, what am I thinking? I didn't save nearly enough money. No, okay? No. Like, if you want to pull this off and you want to really do this for real, like make sure your numbers are right before you go ahead and make a leap of faith like that, okay? Very, very key. Last thing I want to leave you with is you can do this, okay? You can absolutely pull this off, especially if you got time on your side. Like, you can pull this off over the next 10, 20 years. You absolutely can. Don't let anybody tell you different. You can absolutely do it, okay? And, this is a great saying, especially the bottom part. I always love that. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, okay? It's so dang key. And if you're somebody watching this and you got zero or you got, let's say, $10,000 net worth, it seems like a long way to get to $2 million, right? That seems like a million miles away. But when you got a decade on your side, like the other great saying is, people tend to way overestimate what they can do in a year and way underestimate what you can do in 10 years. And so this is a 10, 20-year plan. If you execute this well, you do those 4 things that I just said, you got a really good chance of actually pulling this off for real and making that a reality. The dream of retiring early and being able to live life on your own terms and doing that early, you actually have a legit shot at actually doing this, guys. So anyways, I hope you really enjoyed this video. Hope you got a lot of value out of it. If you don't mind, smash a thumbs up. Share this video out with a friend or family member. I'm sure there's a lot of other folks that that probably want to retire early, okay? And remember these 4 things I just told you in this video for life, all right? That being said, guys, have a great day. Hope you enjoyed this. Peace.